What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? This is the Sugar
Yeah.
Hill Gang podcast, and I am your host, the Master G, the Master, the G with the double E, and I'm joined by my brothers, my homies, T Dynasty, DJ T Dynasty. Say what's up, T.
What's up, T?
All right, and my boy, my man, my pots and pans. Homeboy can't do without him, no doubt. Chief Rocker, Hen Diggity, diggity dog.
I'm a real big, baby. Wakanda forever.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the hottest, one of the most prolific. I'm trying to put all these big words into it so you can see my intelligence, Cassidy.
Yeah, you're going to have to pull out the whole thing.
I'm
with it.
I'm trying to impress you.
Get the whole dictionary. Just throw the dictionary out. There's too many words.
Put your hands together for DJ Cassidy.
Number one. I gotta tell you, receiving an introduction like that from Master G is not something that I'd ever thought I'd ever receive in my entire life. So if the interview stopped right now, if the internet went out, if my computer froze, I'd be satisfied with this interview.
I'm telling you, no, man. Listen, and this is the thing, man. And I kind of like it's like almost like my confession that the whole reason for us doing the podcast is because we've basically been like recluses from the music world for the whole time that we've been a part of this thing. And with the modern age of technology, and of course, I got to keep thinking my boys, Hen Dog, my brothers, Hen Dog and Diamond, because they're the more like me and Mike are kind of like the old hats of this thing, but Diamond and Hen, they're like the energetic. They're the guys. They're on the internet and the gram and all these different things, and they've been bringing us into the 21st century. So I'm taking the jump into call it hyperspace and getting a chance, man, to touch base with people that evidently have been affected by our music and by what it is that we presented to the world. So just again doing the work and looking into what's going on and hearing about you, man. And for you to say that about me, it's big, but it's always exciting, man, for me to talk to guys like you because like I said, man, you're in the mix, man. You're making it happen, man. But this is what we do. We ask every person that comes on the show to tell us your Rappers Delight story. What was your experience? When did you first hear Rappers Delight or your introduction to our thing?
Well, I grew up with Rappers Delight being part of the world. So I didn't have a first moment. It just was. It was always there. We always knew the words. It was always one of the biggest records. I was born in 1981. The record came out in 1979. So by the time I have a memory, right, let's say 4 or 5 years old when you start to remember, it was already what it was.
Yes.
So I grew up with that as part of a fabric of who I was. Thriller, for example, I remember Thriller coming out. I was very young, but I remember having the vinyl and it being new and it being the first year or two. But Rapper's Delight was such a part of the everyday kind of musical experience. And I grew up completely enamored by hip hop. All I ever listened to as a child was hip hop. In fact, I was a very closed-minded child. All I wanted to know about was hip hop, and I asked my parents for turntables and a mixer for my 10th birthday.
Wow.
And it was because of hip hop that I wanted turntables and a mixer. Hip hop wanted I wanted to take part in the culture in some way, and so. The moment I got turntables, one of the obvious records that you needed was Rapper's Delight. So my answer to your question was, I've had Rapper's Delights. I've had a Rapper's Delight moment in every month of every year of my life, and I can tell you that no matter where I DJ around the world, no matter what kind of party, nightclub, celebrity events, anything in between, there is really not a night where I don't play Rapper's Delight and Apache.
Of course, yes, yes.
And Eighth Wonder.
Oh yes. Oh wow.
And so, you know, I have a little trilogy I do with those 3 songs.
Wow.
And it's a very rare night where I don't do that, you know, Sugar Hill Gang trifecta.
I mean, I'm gonna go ahead, finish.
I could go on and on and on, so you'll have to interrupt me at some point. But that Sugar Hill Gang trifecta, where I go from Rapper's Delight to the first 8 bars of Eighth Wonder to Apache, is something that's so universal.
Yeah.
And there's not many records that work everywhere for everyone. You know, you can't count them. You know, there's Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Michael Jackson. There's Poison, El Biv DeVoe.
Yes.
There's Prince, Kiss. There's those records that in the first bar, everyone explodes.
Right.
And among an incredible catalog, you guys have 3, and I do the 3 together. Yeah. And I do it almost anywhere I go, and it doesn't matter if it's a club full of kids or a room full of celebrities, but it explodes no matter where I am. I mean, look, I could go on and on and on about telling you guys I could tell you how I DJ'd Barack Obama's inaugurations at the White House, his first inauguration and second inauguration. I could tell you about how I DJ'd Barack Obama's 50th birthday at the White House. I could tell you how I DJ'd Michelle Obama's 50th birthday at the White House. I could tell you how I DJ'd Oprah Winfrey's school opening in South Africa, New Year's Eve. I could tell you
rock Eighth Wonder?
And I could tell you about Jay-Z and Beyonce's wedding. I could tell you about any room I've been in where I did my Rapper's Delight, Eighth Wonder, Apache trifecta.
See what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. You know, like I said, man, this thing, like talking to you and you know, hey man, you're in the mainstream. You're, like I said, mainstream is the best way to describe what you're doing and where you're at, and which is the main thing. And for the longest time, I never really understood, and I've been calling this time the magnitude of us. You know, I really didn't understand what kind of effect that we've had on people until I started doing things like what I'm doing right now. So to hear you say that, Oprah was partying to Apache, you know what I'm saying? It's mind blowing to me to realize again how deeply embedded, like you're saying, we've always been a part of just the vibrations of the world, man. It's crazy to think like that.
You really have indeed. And Rapper's Delight is really an anomaly. As I said a few minutes ago, there are not many songs that are truly universal. The word universal, timeless, and classic are used a little too frequently, in my opinion. Okay. And there are many records that deserve those words, not as many as get attributed those words. And Rapper's Delight is one of those magical records where even those who are very young and might not know who sings the record, just being honest, they might not know. They know the words. And that's a real testament to what a classic is and what the word timeless means. And it supersedes hip hop. It means so much to hip hop, that record, but it supersedes hip hop in so many ways by what it continues to mean.
And that's the thing about us, as we travel the planet too. You know what I mean? Early on when of course when I cut Rapper's Delight, I was a junior going to a senior year in high school and just
Wait a minute. So you were a junior in high school. So you were 16 or 17 when you recorded.
I was actually 17 years old when I recorded Rapper's Delight. Yes, it was my junior year of It was the summer of my senior year. In other words, Junior year finished. It was between the
Yeah.
so I was between 11th and 12th grade.
So it was 78 or 79? 70.
It was 79. So I was getting ready to be in the 12th grade. So it was
Okay.
that summer. It was the summer before 12th grade.
So I need to flip this around for a second. I'll be the interviewer just for 2 seconds. It's 1979.
Yeah.
You just finished 11th grade.
Yes.
You're in Englewood, New Jersey?
Very good. Dwight Morrow. Going to Dwight Morrow. Yeah.
Okay. And you record this record. Do you have any idea of what's about to happen?
No, none whatsoever. Now, here's what I tell, and this is the thing. So we cut the record, and I listened to the record. Me, Mike, everybody were in the control room. We're listening to the record, and now my brain was New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, the tri-state area. That's what they call the tri-state area, right?
Yes.
So I'm thinking.
I'm from New York City. I know the tri-state area.
So you know. So I'm thinking it's going to be big in the tri-state area because that's where rapping was. All I knew about all these things I knew about rapping was what we had going on in our little area of New Jersey, and then of course what I had been hearing about because I was too young and my parents didn't allow me to travel and hang out in Brooklyn and the Bronx and all of that. Yeah. So all I knew about was that. So I'm thinking, okay, the record is going to be big in the tri-state area, and that was that. And when I was going to go back to school, it would come out and everything would be cool. Roll the script real quick. So I went back to school. The record had supposedly been released. I personally thought it wasn't going to do anything. By the time I went back to the 12th grade, I was like, oh, well, I did this thing. And then the other thing was King Tim's record came out before us. The Fatback Band. You remember Fatback Band had a record, King Tim III, and Here I Am, and blah, 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 blah. And the record came out, and I'm like, oh, damn, somebody beat us to it. But before I got to, 2 months into the 12th grade, of course, the rest is history. So I had no clue. No. The only person that I will always say that knew, Mike. Right. Mike said, he said it in the studio. He said, man, this is going to be big. And I was like, nah, we'll be all right in around Jersey. So, no, I didn't know.
Incredible.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
I know.
So
here we are.
Coming from the Upper East Side, did you grew up doing Melly Mel or Kaz or any of them cats?
No, I didn't know personally, but I knew of. I mean, all the people we're talking about were my heroes. It's interesting. I started at one point and then I kind of went backwards. So like, I think Run DMC and Jam Master Jay were really my first heroes of hip hop. As a 5-year-old kid, they were my idols. And as soon as I got turntables, I really wanted to be a student of hip hop. And I quickly learned more about Grandmaster Flash, Kool Herc, and Afrika Bambaataa. And they quickly became my superheroes. They were like, my Spider-Man, my Superman.
You inspired to be them. That's what you mean.
I was
right?
inspired to be them. I was inspired by everything about them. Seeing Kool Herc in the convertible with the speakers coming out, like I saw that image as a kid, and to me, that was greater than any athlete, any superhero of the comic book era, and they were just larger than life to me. And I was fascinated that they were creating hip hop by playing all kinds of music, and that's what changed me. That's what opened my mind to want to learn about all kinds of music, and that's where I really started to discover the soul, funk, disco, and R&B of the 70s and 80s. Okay. And I wanted to know all that music and learn all that music and rock and roll and new wave and house music and reggae. And it really made me want to be the DJ who could play all music for all people.
I was going to ask you. Go ahead, Don. Go ahead, Don.
In the production ring, Cassidy? Because you have an ear. Have you thrown your hat in the production ring?
I have. So in 2014, I started to put out my own records. And what I wanted to do with those records was I wanted to channel the sound of the music I just discussed. I wanted to channel the sound of the R&B of the late 70s and early 80s, but with young voices. So just to give you one example, in 2014, I put out a single featuring Robin Thicke and Jessie J. So Robin Thicke at that time had the biggest song in the world, Blurred Lines. Jessie J, she was a huge star in the UK as well as here. And on that record, Calling All Hearts was the title. On that record, Verdine White of Earth, Wind & Fire plays bass, Philip Bailey of Earth, Wind & Fire plays percussion, Nile Rodgers plays guitar, John Robinson of Chaka Khan and Rufus plays drums. And actually, Jerry Hay,
Larry Dunn on keys.
Yep, Larry Dunn on keys. You watch the behind the scenes, I can tell.
Man, listen, I want to know, how did you manage to get all those heavyweights in one room? Oh, my gosh.
So that process was my first foray, into real producing. I had attempted kind of making beats before that. It never really struck. I was not the beat maker that I wanted to be, but in kind of uniting people together, musicians, singers, writers, I was good at that. At least I thought I was good at that. And so, thank you. And so, I wanted to channel this music, but I wanted it to be young. I wanted it to be pop. I wanted it to feel like now. So I looked up who played on all my favorite records of that era. So I made a list of records, and they really all fell between like 1978 and 1982. That was like my sweet spot. My, all my favorite records fell between those years. So I found all the same names reappearing, all the members of Rufus who played for Chaka, they all played on Off the Wall, and they all played for George Benson and Quincy used a lot of the same people. So, I went after all these musicians, and some were superstars, so it was Earth, Wind & Fire, Nile, Kool and the Gang. And then there were the unsung heroes, who played on all these records. And I kept seeing the same names over and over. Wah Watson was Barry White and Marvin. So, he passed away a couple years ago, but he played on a bunch of records with me. He was a mentor. Anyway, so, I just reached out. And honestly, that single that I put out, the first song that I ever put out, was the first and only time that Earth, Wind & Fire and Nile Rodgers played on a record. Every time I say that, I keep thinking someone's going to say, no, there was that one time, but like no one ever does. I don't think there was another time.
No.
Anyway, so that, in answer to your question, yes. So, not every record I make is made in such a way, but the early records that I made, the first records that I made were made in that way.
That's incredible, man.
That's incredible.
Incredible.
That is so incredible.
That's great.
Where in the world do you find some of the most creative people other than America? Like, you've been all over the world. We've been all over the world. I've met, Japanese breakdancers. I met, Belgian rappers. Where in the world where in the parts of the world do you find the most creative people?
Well, I'll answer it in two ways. I don't know if I can say off the top of my head if there's any one place where I find greater creativity, but I can tell you where I have found the greatest appreciation of hip hop culture and the greatest appreciation of soul and R&B.
I'd like to hear that. Yes.
So I have always found that in Japan, the appreciation of hip hop culture is on another level. And I have found that in the UK, the appreciation of R&B and soul music is on another level.
Very true.
And on my first single that we discussed, I had more success in the UK right off the bat. And so there's something about the sound of that era, that's just really appreciated in the UK. And the majority of music during that time came from here, not from there. There were acts from the UK, but the majority were from here. But there's something ingrained. I don't know what's in the water there, but it's they
Got a
appreciate
soul, man. It's a different soul.
Yeah.
This is very interesting because the first time that I went to the UK was like, I don't know, 80, 81 or whatever the case may be. And so being again 19 at the time, 18, 19 at the time, I'm expecting to hear what's going on. Because I didn't know how the music really was worldwide. So I get there and we're like in, I don't know, like Nottingham or something. And I hear all of these really like old R&B, soul songs, and they're like, and the clubs are packed. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, how are they even interested in us when, this is like the soul stuff that my mother was listening to, you know what I mean? And it was kids in there my age at the time jamming. And it was like it was an eye-opening experience. And what you said really triggered that, because every time we go to the UK, even to this day, they're still, that's their like their bread and butter is that soul music, that real, they'll and they listen to a different like sound. They listen, what they want to hear is different. And then like even with us, they want to hear the obscure songs that we have, songs that are on the Living in the Fast Lane album that didn't even see the light of day. They're pulling out this song we have is called Passion Play. It was on the Sugar Hill Gang, the first Sugar Hill Gang album. And I've literally been at a show killed. I mean, like, we kill you guys. And the cows say, but why didn't you play Passion Play? I'm like, wow. It's like, so the UK is their musical taste is very interesting. I agree with you on that. And then going to Japan, when we went to Japan, we were in Japan in 2018 or no 2019 for the first time, and literally the people came to the show with Adidas hats on. I mean, then the warm-up suits, and so we finished the show, same thing, killing, and the people say, encore. I'm like, oh, you want us to do another song? So I'm thinking people want us to do Apache again, or they want to hear Rapper's Delight again. So they start screaming, Eighth Wonder. And I'm saying, I'm looking around, I'm like, Eighth Wonder? Y'all want to hit Eighth Wonder? You got to do Eighth Wonder. It's incredible, man. So yes, I'm with you on that.
Yep. It's fascinating just to hear your take on everything, because when you talk about going to the UK when you were 19, I just envision, I'm assuming you had never been to Europe prior to that, right? That was
I had never been there.
Right. So you're 19, you recorded this record, and suddenly people are flying you to Europe. I just can only imagine. I almost got stuck on that part. I was trying to listen to the rest of what you said, but a part of my brain was still picturing that moment, because to me it's just so fascinating and exciting to think that hip hop and this record just not only changed your life, but changed everything. And just suddenly you are on planes and bringing hip hop to parts of the world that had not had it that close before.
The first time, this is crazy, because what you're saying is you're evoking a lot of thoughts. So the first time we ever went to Amsterdam, okay, and this is the thing that I always remember. By the time we had got over there, I was a teen idol in America. I mean, girls tearing my clothes off and the whole 9 yards. We get to this show. This is the first time they've ever seen this thing done live. They've seen it on television. They saw it. And so I'm expecting the place to go wild. Okay. So I get out, we doing the song. Everybody's quiet. They're just standing there. They're just staring there. They're staring. So I get off to the side of the stage and I'm talking to, my road manager. I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? He's like, nothing's wrong. Just keep going out. Keep going out. And eventually what I had to figure out was for them to actually see me doing the lyrics on stage, rapping, was like watching the first person landing on the moon. They had never seen it done live before. And I had to take all of that in, because my experience was, I couldn't hear myself think. so it was just it was one. It was like I was an alien. Like for the
So
that first wave was like I was an alien.
Right.
so speaking of the first time seeing something, um, I was at Nile Rodgers' house in Connecticut recording his part for a song of mine, "Kill the Lights."
Okay.
And he drove me back to the city. So we're driving back, and I asked him to tell me about the first time he heard Rapper's Delight. Now,
Tell me that story.
Yeah, I would be interested to hear that.
I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but
Never.
but
I wanna hear it.
but I so I could have never imagined Nile Rodgers telling me about the first time he heard Rapper's Delight, and I definitely could have never imagined telling his story to the Sugar Hill Gang. So this is quite a surreal moment. But he told me that he was at Studio 54, I believe. I will stand corrected if he corrects me on the club, but I believe it was Studio 54. But whatever it was a nightclub in New York City. I believe it was Studio 54. And he hears the record, and he's like, wait, that's Good Times. And then he's like, wait, it's not, though. Because it's not Bernard playing the bass. And he walks over to the DJ booth, and he thinks there's going to be someone in the booth who's rapping over a replay of his track.
Good times, right.
So he gets to the DJ booth, and he's like, what is this? And they say, this is a record. It's called Rapper's Delight. And he's like, that's my record, Good Times. And they're like, no, it's this new record, Rapper's Delight, by the Sugar Hill Gang. And that's the first time he heard the record.
Wow.
That's incredible. I have never heard that story before. This is the first time I ever heard that story. That's crazy.
But Cassidy, I will say that I've heard him say in a few interviews, in several interviews, that he said that record did change his life. You know, in terms of
no question.
It took it to his whole thing to another level. You know what I mean?
No question.
I mean, a greater producer he is. You know what I'm saying?
No, for sure. I mean, what it did for R&B, for disco, for hip hop, is something that really no other record has done. It's really in a league of its own. And speaking to Nile and Chic specifically, I mean, so many of their records have been sampled, you know, by Puffy, Will Smith, you know, the list goes on.
Yeah.
But you know, this was the first, and it's still to this day, you know, neither record eclipsed each other or became, you know, better than the other. They're so similar, but they're so different. They often get played together, sometimes not. I sometimes play them together, sometimes not. But no matter how similar they are, and let's be real. There's some people in the world who probably think they're the same record, right? Let's be honest.
Yes.
Some people who just don't really know about, you know, too much about music and just probably think it. And that's a beautiful thing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so as a DJ, separately from this part of the conversation, you know, it's interesting because I often use that, you know, as a bridge to go from the R&B of the 70s into hip hop. Like if I'm playing the R&B of that era, but I want to get, you know, to old school hip hop, you know, I can get from, you know, We Are Family to Rob Bass, It Takes Two in 6 degrees of separation. You know, I go, We Are Family, Good Times, Rapper's Delight, Eighth Wonder, Apache, into Hit It.
Right. That kills. And you're done. You're done.
Yes.
6 degrees of separation. I can do it in 5 minutes.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And then once I'm at It Takes Two, you know, Don't Smoke Buddha, Can't Stand Cess, yes. And then on that yes, I can go into any hip hop song really, and then, you know, continue, you know, play anything hip hop. So it's, for me, it's an easy bridge. And, that intro you guys have to it, the part that
Yes.
was not on the Chic record,
Right.
Yes.
that
You know
can
what that
be
is, right?
in and of itself as a bridge if I just have
You know
to
what
get to something
You know
fast.
you know what that is?
No, I was going to ask you, tell me about that. Who did
Okay.
that? Whose idea was that? Who made that?
Okay. That was, and again, she doesn't get the credit that she deserves as a creator. Sylvia Robinson, the person that had the whole vision to do this, when we got into the studio and we was, it was coming together, she said, you had to have something on there, blah, 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 blah. Now there was a song called Here Comes That Sound, Here Comes That Sound, again and again, again and again, and it went boom, 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 boom,
You're
and
gonna go
that's what
find
she
it. That's it. You look at it like you
yeah,
said, I'm gonna go find it
and
now.
that's where she came
The
up with that.
second we
Boom.
finish this, because
You go look for it.
it's not every day someone can school me. It's not every day.
Okay, so I'm
Wait,
giving
what's
you
the
some
name of the
knowledge.
record?
Here Comes That Sound.
Yeah.
I think it's Here Comes That Sound. That should be the
By
name.
who?
I don't know the name. I don't know the name.
He's searching
I forgot.
it. It is.
I forgot. But Here
I'll
Comes
find
That
it.
Sound.
I'll find it.
Yeah. And so so they had, that's where the boom, 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 that's where that part came from. And then she, bless her heart, man, had the idea to do the do do duck, do 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 duck, do 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 duck, do 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 duck,
Cowbell.
do 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 duck, do do do. That was all her, man. That was all her. Boom,
So,
boom, boom. That was all
so
her.
I'm sure you discuss her, on other events, but just for people listening, let's tell people who that is.
So Sylvia Robinson is the mind. She is the genius. She is the godmother of hip hop. Period. Sylvia was the person that put Me, Mike, and Hank together. Sylvia was the person that had the vision to record Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Sylvia had the vision to give Angie Stone, who was part of Sequence, their opportunity to come out. Sylvia co-wrote and produced the first every Apache, Eighth Wonder, Rappers Delight, Message, Freedom, any significant hip hop, anything that came from Sugar Hill Records. Sylvia Robinson had her finger on that, and before that, she had success with doo-wop groups. That's where she had the idea for the threes, because she had the moments. She had the moments. So it's Ray Goodman, Harry Ray, Al Goodman, and Billy Brown. And so when she was going to decide who she was going to use with us, she couldn't decide. She figured three was her favorite number because she had one before with the doo-wop era, and that's why it was three of us initially. So Sylvia is very significant, and of course Joe was he ran the company, and Sylvia was the creative aspect of it. And she taught me how to be a performer. She took me from a teenager to an adult man. Bless her heart. So she was amazing.
Incredible.
And shout out to her.
Sylvia.
And shout out to
for those that don't know, you mentioned the group The Moments, whose song Jay-Z based Empire State of Mind on.
Yes.
Empire State of Mind is based on a sample by The Moments.
Right. Love is Strange. Excuse me. The Pillow Talk.
Love on a two-way street.
Love on a two-way street. Love on a two-way street. Couldn't get
so
it out.
Every time you hear Empire State of Mind, someone at Sugar Hill is
getting a check.
He is getting a publishing check.
Yes.
Sylvia's State or something.
Yes. Shout out to Leland Robinson, who is our business partner and friend to the group, Major. Let me ask you this question. So if you could heal the world with music, what would it be? If you could heal the world right now with music, what would it be?
You mean what song would it be, or what would I do, or
what would you do if you could use music to heal the world? What would you do?
Well, I don't know if this is the answer that you're looking for, or maybe it is, but I would do what I'm doing with Pass the Mic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what the future has in store, and hopefully there's more healing in store. And by no means am I healing the world, but
you are, brother.
Oh well, thank you. But I had this idea that I thought could uplift people in a little way.
Yeah.
Not going to completely, change the world, but I'll tell you real quick how I came up with this idea. I was FaceTiming with Verdine White of Earth, Wind, and Fire. I know we mentioned him earlier in April.
Right.
So,
Right.
so through making these records, he's become a friend. And the world was going through crazy time, as we are still. It was the end of April, early May. Everyone was still very much locked inside. No one had experimented yet. Like we were all very much locked in, and kind of seeing him on my phone and then hearing his song come on, That's the Way of the World, just by chance,
Yeah.
just really gave me a chill. And I said, how fortunate am I to have relationships with so many of my heroes? And could I give somehow people around the world this feeling of connecting with your heroes of music?
Right. Right.
And so the idea for Pass the Mic, as you've seen it, honestly came to me in an instant. The name Pass the Mic came to me. I said, I'm going to sit right here in my living room. I'm going to have the fireplace. It's going to feel very intimate. And I'm going to call all my iconic friends, and I'm going to ask them to sing along to a song one at a time. And so that's how it came to be. It was just, I felt that if I could somehow give people the feeling of connecting with their musical heroes, that would be an uplifting thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's been.
It's been amazing, incredible, man.
Was anything that you felt like that you took from being around Nile or Verdine, that you want to share with us? Could you tell me a little bit about that? From being around them, being in the studio with them, anything that you take that you use today?
There's so much we could do a whole show on that. I'll tell you one very specific thing. Very specific. This isn't a overall general, proverb they gave me. Something very specific. Nile said to me when I was producing the early records that I did, there'd be a bass line or something we'd have in the song. And my partner, Greg Cohen, would essentially program a lot of these bass lines on a keyboard before we went to the live musician. So there was something to inspire. Sometimes they played what he did because they loved it. Sometimes they freaked it in a different way or did something of their own.
Right.
But he was great at what he did. Greg's a genius. And so Niall, whether it was a guitar thing or a bass thing, Niall would always say, establish the pattern before you start to riff. Because sometimes in our excitement, we'd get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
And he would say, you got to at least give it 8 bars or 16 bars or 32 bars before you start to freak it, to establish it. Wow. Now, I could find times Bernard Edwards did not give it 8 bars before he started freaking it, but
exactly.
But he might have been allowed a pass. You know what I mean?
Yes. He's Nile Rodgers.
Yeah, he was allowed
Nile Rodgers.
Because that's how bad it was,
But anyway, he said establish it, before you start freaking it. So if you listen to Chic records, you'll hear that he does that. But I kind of use that model kind of subconsciously, I feel, in a lot of things I do. Even when I'm on the microphone during a song, keep the beginning simple before you go crazy. Establish what you're doing before you start, to freak it.
Right.
Yeah.
That was one little thing, but an important thing.
Right. Absolutely.
And Verdine, I mean, oh my God, I could go on forever.
Verdine White. God, he's Verdine White.
Well, you'll never see sheet music in front of Verdine. Now, whether he reads music or not, I don't know. But you wouldn't know because he does it by ear. So if he's playing something that he's learning, he learns it by ear. And if he's playing something he wrote, he just comes up with it and plays it. We were working together on one track recently that's not out yet. It's for a project I'm working on. So there's no singer on it yet. Right now, it's really just an instrumental. Mm-hmm. And this was the last time I was in a studio with him. It was about 12 months ago. And he heard the track with no bass. There was drums, some keyboard stuff, and he heard it and he goes, "Okay, I got it. Plug me in." And so he didn't futz around to come up with it. He came up with it in his head, and then started playing the bass line. And so you know what I learned from that is that sometimes the initial inspiration is the magic, and I think we tend to overthink things. I think particularly in the modern era where live instruments have become less frequent. I think we tend to overthink, overplan. Pro Tools allows us to copy and paste, to edit, to make everything perfect.
Right.
And you know, the feeling I always get from Verdine is the opposite of that. You know, plug in and play. Plug in and play, and the feeling you know, is the magic, and the humanity is the magic.
Right.
And another thing I learned from Verdine, and I've never told him this, so I'm going to show him this, and I'm actually kind of just articulating this now for the first time because you asked it. But another thing I think I learned from Verdine is no matter how much you accomplish, to not overthink yourself and take yourself too seriously. You know, Verdine is really a legend beyond. Beyond. And the music that band has created is really magical, right? I mean,
I mean, back when Earth, Wind and Fire, when they first came out, man, and they was, you know, putting out all those hits, people used to think they was from another planet.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was incredible the composition that they was able to create and make work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
on one hand,
incredible, man.
Verdine, you know, when he's on stage with the outfits and the hair, and he's raw. He's like larger than life, but he's so humble and doesn't really act or speak like he's the man behind these magical epic records. And that teaches me something. You know, it really teaches me that no matter what you do in life, don't think that you know that you matter more than anyone else, because
that's right.
Verdine is the warmest, sweetest, treats everyone the same, gets stopped by everyone no matter where he is, gives everyone the same 15 minutes.
And don't age. I mean, what kind? I want some of the water he's drinking.
You know, and his energy is like, you know, a 20-year-old.
Man.
But you know, look, I've learned many lessons. With Nile, I gave something very specific about music. With Verdine, I'm giving something broader, which is you can create the most magic in the world, and it shouldn't change who you are. And I didn't know Verdine before. Before he was in this band, you know, that changed the world. But I'm imagining that he's the same exact person. And that really says a lot, and says a lot about their music, because, you know, Philip Bailey is the same way. And I think part of their magic is that they are those kind of people. And, you know, Maurice, who I never met, I met Philip.
God rest his soul.
So I met Philip, Larry, and Verdine while Maurice was still living, but you know, he wasn't as well as he once was. So I never met him, but I went to the funeral, and the love in this room was like, you know, you've never seen. It was a celebration, because honestly, when you pass away and you leave behind what he left behind, there's really honestly nothing to cry about. It's like, it is a true celebration. And Verdine was the orchestrator of that day. It was a full production, but it was like a production of love.
Right.
And it really was a celebration, because when you're leaving behind that much music, it's like, people don't leave that in a lifetime. It doesn't matter how old you were, you know.
I mean, some people still, up until today, think that Getaway, the most famous composition ever put together.
Yeah.
I mean, how they could make that a danceable record, you know, and how they put it together with all the horns and everything going at the same time. I mean, it was incredible, man. Incredible what they did.
You know, the thing that I find that's a commonplace in profound and prolific work, the people that do it, the thing that I find the more, even, you know, even talking to you, you know, again, like one of my biggest things is that, well, this person is too aloof. They don't want to talk to me. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm nobody to them. You know what I mean? Every time I get a chance to talk to somebody who's, you know, well-known, famous, huge, humongous, whatever the case may be, that's doing it for the love. Like talking to you, I can tell you love music. It's not you love celebrity. It's not, you know, it's cool to be known in the whole nine, but you love music. You know, Verdine is, you know, again, a person that loves music. Everything that I find, these cats that I perform with, they love music. You know, me, I love music. The thing that I find that's the common base, man, is the naturalness of just being a good human being, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that if we could get that vibration out, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
to the people in the world, that, you know, at the end of the day, man, just be a good person. I mean, that in itself will resonate and translate into so many different aspects of life. I find that it's one of the most refreshing things that I've experienced, including up to and doing this interview with you. You know what I mean, man?
Give him the speech, G. Give him the speech. Say it. Say it. Give him the speech, baby. Give him the speech. Give him the speech, baby. Come on, give him the speech.
Love and good music. Love and good music, man. Love and good music.
Yeah,
that's what we all about.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to let you know that, you know, hip hop, you know, clearly has evolved on, in so many ways since you were there in 1979. And, you know, we could do a whole you know, entire talk on your perspective on how global hip hop became and how much hip hop changed the world. And it really did. It really, really did. And I want you to know that every young rapper out there today, every young rapper, no matter if they know the history of the Sugar Hill Gang or not, every one of them knows the words to Rapper's Delight. And
that's incredible.
And you should know that, because I'm sure there are moments where you feel the Sugar Hill Gang is on the pedestal they should be, and I'm sure there's moments where you think they're not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I want you to know that every young rapper with a hit record, no matter if they say it and you hear it, or no matter if they know who the members were, or Sylvia's name, or the history or not, and they might not, I can assure you they know the words to Rapper's Delight.
No, again, man, like I said, this is, and, you know, we're going to wrap it up, man, because, you know, I could, like you said, we could talk for hours. You know, that this is a very exciting situation. But the thing that I want to get out to you is that every time I talk to somebody like you, it does so much for us, because of the simple fact that, you know, we have had to fight for so many years, man, so many years to, you know, right some wrongs and get some things straightened out that needed to be done a certain way. And a lot of that was the reason why I didn't want to be associated with people and music and the whole nine yards. So, you know, to hear it, I mean, it gives me goosebumps, because, you know, it's a real live animal, like you said. I mean, there's everywhere in the world, somebody knows this music, and everywhere in the world, any person that is, you know, doing a record or writing a book or whatever the case may be, has been affected by what we're doing. And it becomes almost a mind-blowing situation for me, and Mike too. I know Mike and I, we talk about this a lot, you know what I mean, about how, you know, two guys that were just, you know, hanging out and doing, you know, stuff in our neighborhood, you know, are now global, you know, entertainers. I call myself an international recording artist. I don't use the word celebrity or, you know, whatever. I'm an international recording. People say, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm an international recording artist. I travel around the world and, I perform it. What is that all about? Well, and I helped found a group. Really? Oh, okay. So, this is so incredible, man. I just want to ask you one more question. If I were somebody that I wanted to be another DJ Cassidy, what would you tell me? Because people ask me this all the time. What kind of advice would you have, for me? So I'm going to ask you, what kind of advice do you have, for somebody who might be, thinking about this?
My advice for someone who aspires to do what I've done, and by the way, I have a lot more to do, but
yes, I know
my
that.
advice for someone who wants to do what I've done would be to be a student of music. The recognition that I've received in my career has always come back to my knowledge of music. When Puffy started hiring me to do parties for him at 18, he wasn't like, yo, this kid plays that new hip hop better than anyone. Now, maybe I did. I hope I did. I don't know if I did. But what he would always say is, yo, this kid plays soul music like he lived it. How does he know those records? And Jay-Z would say the same thing, and the list goes on and on and on. And it was always my ability to play music that came before me that drew the people I admired to me. And so, don't get me wrong, I travel the world and I play nightclubs in every city around the globe and, play every new hot record out there.
Of course you do.
But it was the music that came before me that really was what drew people to me, particularly to the big names that became
gave you that platform. Right.
Yeah, that really put the fuel in the fire for me.
Right.
And so that would be my advice to anyone wanting to do what I've done. And I say that specifically, not if you want to be a DJ or whatever, specifically to anyone who says, damn, I love what you've done. The number one thing is to be a student of music.
Yeah.
Man,
I love that, man. Yeah, I think we're going to, listen, like I said, we could go on and on. This has been amazing, DJ Cassidy. Cassidy, this is, you've continued to fuel my fire. I'm excited, and you now are a part of that. It's like I'm continually being able to touch all the different branches of the tree that we have had a chance to be a part of, and so this has really been cool. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Thank you.
I would love to. Hey, I want to be on one of them things, one of those, one of the drop bikes. You gotta put us on.
So three things. Number one, I see the sign, vote Indeed, and vote for Biden. I'm not one of these impartisan go vote people.
Right.
Okay? So it's vote for Biden. There's only one choice here. The democracy is at stake.
Yeah.
It isn't about specific views anymore. The structure of democracy in this country is at stake. We need to vote Biden and work from there.
Right. You're right.
And secondly, I want to say to all three of you, thank you. It was an honor to be on with you. And G, I just want you to know, I'm really grateful that after all these years, we finally now have a connection.
Yes.
And so number one, I will for sure be doing a Pass the Mic in the future of the late 70s, early 80s hip hop era. And I will for sure be calling. But I just want you to know, and I'm sure you've heard this many times, but I want to tell you from my perspective, I really, do feel that there's not a hit hip hop record today that doesn't owe you some of the credit. You were the first, and everyone can pave can trace the path of Sugar Hill Gang and Flash and Mel and Run DMC and LL Cool J. That's a very easier path to follow. But to follow that path to hip hop of today is a much longer path. You need a lot more patience to follow that. But really, it doesn't take a genius to understand that those records are a direct descendant of you. And I think it's important for everyone to know, I once was with Flash, okay, Grandmaster Flash. I was
Yes.
walking down the street in the Bahamas with Grandmaster Flash. Literally, okay? And we're walking through town in the Bahamas, and we stop outside of a restaurant, and there's a window, the restaurant, and there's a DJ in the window, and his back is towards the street. And he's facing the inside of the restaurant. It was the night before New Year's Eve, a few years ago. And this DJ is playing hip-hop, modern day hip-hop. And I stop with Flash, and I go, Flash, look at that guy. So he turns around and looks, very humble. And I go, do you think that guy has any idea that the person who created what he's doing is standing behind him? And I said, how does it feel knowing that guy right there is doing what he does because of you? Not only playing the music, but his hands are actually doing something that you created. The equipment he's using was modified because of what you did. And honestly, I think any #1 hip-hop record today, I think you could hear it on the radio and feel some sense of gratitude that you made that happen.
That's mind-blowing, man. No, seriously. I can't, I appreciate you, man. Seriously. You made my day, brother. I really do. I appreciate you doing that, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on, man. Really. I wish you all the best. And I yes, man. I'm glad we made this connection. And man, yeah, man. I'm looking forward to, seeing you in the future, man. You in the city,
Likewise.
if you're in the city or whatever, I'm always, we'll figure it out. You know what I mean?
Likewise.
We'll figure it out.
Likewise. Stay in touch. Thank you all for having me. I appreciate you.
All right, man. Yes,
Thank
peace,
you,
y'all. And yeah,
Bye,
this
bro.
is the Sugar Hill Gang podcast. I want to thank my man DJ Cassidy for coming on. Listen, man, we love you, world, for loving us. This has been an amazing experience. So remember, it's all about love and good music, man. The world needs more love and good music. If we have more love and good music, people would have less reason to be bent out of shape. So this is the Master G, y'all. And I got my man Hen Dog. Say goodnight, Hen Dog.
Good night, y'all. Vote Biden.
Say goodnight, T Dynasty.
Good night, T Dynasty.
Say goodnight, DJ Cassidy.
Good night. Thank you.
Love you,
All right,
man.
y'all. Peace.
No doubt.
Sugar Hill Gang. And we are.